The feminine is actually rising in men right now, or rather conscious, aware men. And in women, now it has come to a place where a lot of women's egos are not able to let it rise within them. So there's no point of saying that because 200 years ago some witch was burned, so today I'm gonna roam around in New York with my breasts hanging out because that's empowerment. It doesn't make sense. If you start observing Gen Z kids, they're not alive. So you have a lot of youngsters who, let's say, when they get sexual for the first time in their lives, it's very dead for them now. The feminine is not happy in terms of the field, because even if we bring it to industrialization, globalization, development today, oh my god, economy is better or quality of life is better, I don't think so. I personally feel that currently the changes which will come upon earth, both from within it, from outside it, in people, etc., are gonna be where, if you imagine a feminine dragon rearing its head and coming out from the underworld, all right. This is something which I'm just making up right now, but basically, I personally feel that the feminine aspect of life, or let's just call it the water aspect of life, for the sake of conversation, not singling water as feminine, but that feminine aspect is not happy. And here I don't mean to bring it to a very limited understanding of just human beings and society, where it was patriarchy and some bad guys were there. I don't give a shit about just the human civilization. I'm looking at everything. And when I look at everything, when I look at men, men and women, I see that in a way all of us are living in a way where we are disconnected from our own inner feminine and have been actually raping it in a lot of ways, in terms of spirit. And the way it has been calling out to me is that it's going to come out to take revenge. And as we spoke, a little bit earlier in this conversation, that the world, I personally feel, is upside down. So the guys who are the most corrupt will act, as the most saintly and, do the pujas and, blah, blah, blah. The same way, the feminine is actually rising in men right now, or rather conscious, aware men. And in women, now it has come to a place where a lot of women's egos are not able to let it rise within them, which is not fully their fault. But the thing is that so much agenda has been imprinted upon the men and women of society in the past few decades, and from the West now it has trickled down into India, etc., where people have taken life decisions which go against their own spirit. And now they're in a place where there is suffering, but it's better to ignore the true cause of the suffering and blame the other party for it. All right? So you have an entire few generations of women just putting the blame on either men or, patriarchal civilizations or stuff like that. But the thing is, we exist in the now, and we can play in the now, and we can change in the now, and we can dynamize in the now. All right? So there's no point of saying that because 200 years ago some witch was burned, so today I'm going to roam around in New York with my breasts hanging out because that's empowerment. It doesn't make sense, And the thing is, nobody's telling anybody what you can do and what you can't do. It's simply about all of us have an inner compass or an internal sense of knowing when we know something which we are doing is right or wrong. So if you end up navigating through life where you are mistreating yourself, or rather the blessing that you were born as a woman, and you, let's say, weaponize it, all right, where, let's say, in India, you have a lot of laws which are, not just India, actually everywhere in the world now, which in terms of marriage and stuff are very advantageous for women and very disadvantageous for men. And in India, like, the majority of the court cases which have been going on since a while have all been false cases, simply because the laws are so crazily biased that it's a very good incentive to make use of them, to get some free, whatever. And now that is happening. Now I'm not again singling women out, men out, whatever. I don't care about who was at fault of this or that. It's just that ultimately when it boils down to you, you know whether if you're doing something for the right reasons, for the wrong reasons. And because so much has been going on for the wrong reasons, the feminine field is literally going to rise out from below the earth in terms of its anger, is what I feel. And I personally feel from 2024 onwards, I spoke about this somewhere recently with my own community, that the balance of pain in the world, I personally feel, is going to shift towards the feminine now, in the manifested form, which is a feminine human being, which is a female. Why? Because even though we are aware of the oppression to women in the past, and we are aware of certain things where they were not given equal opportunity, etc., all of that changed. Legally, it changed. Socially, it changed. In many countries now, women actually, on an average, earn more than men. It's all good. We are all still trying to, keep the platforms open, the opportunities open, all of that. But in the places where it has gone into overdrive and women are exhibiting more testosterone driven behavior, which is contrary to their own nature, all right, is the same. And the thing is, whatever we do as one affects things around us. So the more number of people start falling into geopolitical agendas or, mind programming, etc., the more it's funny that how on your screen now the sun is shining or something. I don't know.
Oh,
It's crazy.
yeah, it's kind of full on.
Yeah. So it affects, like everything around us, and hence we do end up influencing others even indirectly, even without conscious choice or consciously, let's say, doing tantra or magic on somebody. Just if I today start believing that I'm not going to vote in India because India is going down the dog, so there's no point. The stronger my belief, the more it'll radiate, where even without a conversation or me talking to somebody, if somebody is in my vicinity, it transfers on to people, because ultimately, as I spoke about the antenna, all the thoughts are in the streams of consciousness. These, as you said, water is in the air all around us. Maybe water is the carrier, I don't know. But in that ether space, all right, the different streams of consciousness are flowing through, where some people are thinking at levels which is just for themselves, purely selfish, purely survival, purely whatever. And some are there who are, just lost in, wow, everything is beautiful. I don't need to do anything. I don't feel the pressure. I don't need to be somebody, or I don't need to be somewhere. Whatever is now is fine. I don't want infighting within me. So the more these kind of people will be there who are relaxed, the more society is going to be relaxed. The more people are there who are in a state of internal conflict, the more it's going to radiate onto other people. And we have seen this now. We can, like, if you want to bring out numbers, we can look at mental health numbers, in the recent years, especially after COVID,
Oh, yeah.
where people thought the world, once it opens, is going to be chill, relaxed, etc. I would like to ask the world, has the world actually improved after COVID? Or was the world better before? You know? So, um, for me, like, it was something which because the world is upside down and we should not believe in the appearances. I personally feel that women 2024 onwards, 2024, because of a longer personal reasoning of mine, the balance of pain is going to shift, where more men are going to be awakened to be grounded. More men are going to be awakened to their emotional side. That is happening. Because what has happened is, in the past few decades, with the women empowerment thing and everything, it has gone now into an overdrive. There was a need for it. We needed to bring a certain level of equality. Now it's gone into overdrive because maybe nobody put the brakes. And we should have realized that, okay, just because some injustice was done before, this time now, when we are coming back out of the darkness or the suppression, let's come to a place where we are now homogeneous, equal understanding of everyone, including the weak points of men, and blah 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 blah. All these kind of different things. Instead of taking it into overdrive, which is basically shooting yourself in your own foot, because the ease with which, like, people give up on commitments today, relationship wise, marriage wise, all these different things, this never existed before. Because commitment, I believe, has some sort of either a direct or an inverse relationship with your own pain tolerance. And we all know doing anything worthwhile is not going to be fun all the time. It is painful, all right? And actually, pain is the price you pay. And that doesn't mean that pain has to be a bad experience. Pain can also be a good experience. You know, it can be a transformative experience. It can be a transmutative experience. It can be an experience of many different kinds. Like, many people actually discover God for the first time because of having to go through horrendous pain.
Good point.
So basically, um, this overdrive, which then kind of led to a disbalance within women, it has led to a disbalance within men. I feel very sad in society because, like, when I look at people, I know the fragmentation which is there within them. And how we are failing at coming together, like males and females. Because with the free man work which I do, one of our vision statements is we want to bridge the ever widening gap between the masculine and the feminine, where there's just a complete, lack of understanding, to the point where if you start observing Gen Z kids, um, what I gave an example about today, if you see something outside, everybody is with their head down. Basically, now they're going through life and relationships with their head down. They're not alive. So you have a lot of youngsters who, let's say, when they get sexual for the first time in their lives, it's very dead for them now. It is that, oh yeah, this is something which is to be done because it's either cool or it says that I'm mature. But the way they're participating in it, like how when we first start experiencing attraction, it is a very vitalizing force. For both males and females. Only females are very covert with it, and men are very overt with it, but it is visible that it makes you come alive. It literally makes you come alive. And now, if you'll observe the youngsters, that playfulness, that life energy, everything is lower and lower and lower compared to, just a few generations above them. Like just kids who were, let's say, born 5 years before. And it's happening at a very, very rapid pace. And again, the feminine does not like this. See, the masculine, according to me, in terms of God mode of the masculine and the masculine doesn't care. The feminine cares. The masculine only cares about, okay, what needs to be done, let's go and do it. But the feminine cares, that ultimately everybody should be, well fed and happy and, together and blah, 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 blah. And whether it's about the men, whether it's about the women, the feminine field, in my opinion, is not happy with the way we have dealt with that aspect of our lives. Because even if you see all the development, all right, if you come look at industry, if you look at economy, if you look at globalization, the dream which they sold, which has massively backfired, especially because of, migrant crises and so many different things in so many different nations. Like they call Sweden Syria now, because it's like the rape capital of Europe, and, so many other things, because there's a lot of agenda behind this, but chuck that. Ultimately, coming to a point where the feminine is not happy in terms of the field, because even if we bring it to industrialization, globalization, development, today, oh my God, economy is better or quality of life is better, I don't think so. And why I don't think so is because, again, the entire landscape was purely masculine, right? So the entire industry growth, entire corporate structures, because they're only focused on profit, not people, all right, not purpose, etc. It's all margins, it's cutting corners, competition, cutthroatness, etc. That you have all the women who work in corporates, you can't say that they're purely in their feminine essence. They can't be. They don't have the natural permission to be. Right? So they have to be, in that aggression. Otherwise, they might not get a chance to speak in the boardroom. And it is not because, let's say, some guy would be putting them down. It's just because the guys are being guys and, they're talking. So you as a woman will need to bring that guyness out in order to be heard. And what this has led to is that overall the women, like in terms of, and I'm not saying that is their fault. I'm saying it's also in a lot of ways our fault, because a lot of the basic humane activities, such as looking after the house or cooking or cleaning, skills which both men and women should anyways know, we no longer as a modern society give weightage to those costs, the time cost of doing that, the emotional cost of doing that, and not really cost, the emotional variable, which again for me relates to water, because for me, like, the moon and water and all these things have a lot to do with the feminine principles of emotions and, water and all these kind of things. And it's crazy that we suddenly lost all of that. Even the ability to actually not do anything. Like, let's say today I have a day where I don't have to do anything. 99.9% of the people on this planet would lose their minds if they were given a day where the agenda was emptiness. And it's actually at the place where the tearing apart of the human soul and civilization is starting to happen now, because people like us are now coming to the realization that slowness matters, just being for a while matters, because actually that is when your mind gets empty, and that is when stuff from the ether is actually able to come down also.
Yeah, I love that.
But we just not have given value to any of these things.
I mean, and there's lots of generalizations and all of that, but I really love the overarching principles of what you said. The way I'm very artistic, so I see things from an artistic lens, and I think of the creative aspect, the artist aspect of that feminine aspect, not necessarily as a woman, but we all have masculine and feminine within us. So this feminine creative aspect is there, and it's designing, creating the art. And the masculine principle is the frame.
Hmm.
And I feel like that there is this beautiful balance with them. And that's the way that I am. We have two worlds, the one we live in and the one we live on.
Hmm.
And how we experience the one we live on is experienced in this realm. And our perception is what we see. And so we make all our ideas up based off what we see and what we're looking at and what we're putting together as a whole. And I think we can really only start with us.
Hmm.
Like it always comes back to be that change that you want to see. Start with the step forward in your life with the best you can do.
Hmm.
Like a loving principle. Step forward with a loving principle. Um, there was a lot of dualism in that conversation. So what if we were to not see it that way? We started to look more towards where's that curved edge instead? What does
Hmm.
that look like from a different perspective? Because we want to see a new world, we have to look at things a new way. Because everybody in the world, when you go on the news or you look at the paper, I don't do either, there's duality in everything. It's like this is bad,
Polarization.
this is good, this is the bad of this feminine's happening here and the masculine's happening there and da, da, da,
Hmm.
da, da, da. And you can easily come to a conclusion, of which I could appreciate, that things will come back as an aggressive kind of like, I'm not having this. But I don't know that the universal principles behave in the human way, in
Hmm.
this kind of vindictive, well, I'm going to hurt you way because I'm not liking how this feels so
Hmm.
much. Because we see the world the way we are, not the way it is
Hmm.
necessarily.
Hmm.
and and so I feel like as long as we have hope and we can lead with light, love, and hope
Hmm.
in our day, with no guarantee that we're going to have it tomorrow in this body,
Hmm.
that 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 itself creates an energy, an environment around us,
Yeah.
which change the environment around us
Yeah.
just by being in a different way, in a way that isn't just looking at all the polarization, but is going, where's that middle edge? It's like where the beach and the sea connect.
Hmm.
There's a space, the subtle space,
Hmm.
where there's a new space
Hmm.
that's often very like not illusionary, but not so easy to notice. It's easy to miss.
Hmm.
It's there, it's real.
Yeah, and I know what you're saying. I didn't mean in the sense that the field or the force or the divine is gonna come out in a vindictive way, personified. In that sense, what I meant is in the sense that it's gonna be a journey through time where truth, with time, we come closer to it.
Yeah.
And how we come closer to it is because that truth is actually present within all of us, but fragmented down. Because let's say you have an understanding of life, I have an understanding of life, etc. It's continuously building upon itself. The more it builds, the more it actually dissolves, because we come across, okay, yeah, this is all common, or these are where the boundaries, which is like my name, Sarhud, are getting dissolved, and they're unifying. And but the only thing is, with the unification, there's always friction, you know. And those fragments of truth don't necessarily last through the time which is needed to reach till truth. They might change form, such as, let's say, some of the humans of the current generations will pass away from this planet. But it's not necessary that while they are alive, we reach to greater understandings of, truth, which radically shift the civilization completely. Whether it's about masculine, feminine expression, whether it's about whatever. Because as I said, like, I actually don't care about the people anymore. I'm so lost in this world of this thing that I actually interplay with myself in terms of even the masculine and the feminine. I don't, the way I'm able to see and relate and understand women, and the way I'm able to see and relate and understand men has radically changed. Because luckily, or maybe unluckily, like, the kind of experiences I have gone through were so heavily compressed in a very small pocket of time that it exploded my senses to things beyond just our local space, let's just say. And the thing is that as it'll take us the time to actually come closer and closer to truth, in again, in my opinion, with all these things, there is going to be a lot of pain, suffering, damage, loss, etc. But the thing is, because again of the dualistic nature, at the same time, love is also erupting on this planet. You know, knowing is also erupting on this planet. Only the balance in terms of individual and collective, or overt and covert, or what is physically visible versus what is etherically happening, is that there is more surface level visibility in terms of the pain and suffering on the planet right now, individual levels and collective levels. And the other side, where the love is erupting and we are being filled with light, etc., these are very individual pockets, you know. And what I said, in the past 1 or 2 years, these pockets have suddenly started connecting with each other.
Yeah.
And that is happening because here everything will happen, on both the ends. So that is there. But I liked what you said about and actually, maybe it'll make you look at the same photograph again, where you said about being an artist, like, it's about the feminine flowing. But the flow, ultimately, if it has no boundaries, it will flow and dissipate, right? So to give it some form, you need the masculine frame. Look at the picture of the book again, of the halo. In a way, it's a frame keeping the
Oh
leaf
yeah.
inside, right?
Yeah. It's true.
So again, similar to the light being the dynamizing force in terms of the masculine, giving the feminine a particular place to be, because otherwise, let's say, the feminine would keep floating, just like the moon, actually.
Yeah.
The moon changes, its zodiacal, or not really zodiacal house, but the lunar mansion every day through a month when it goes through. And because and why we relate it to the mind is because in Hindi the word we use is chanchal, which means very, very fickle. In a way, it can't, uh, it's not like the sun, which is so aware of its purpose and truth that it shows up every day at the same time to do the same thing. But the
Yeah.
moon keeps on, flickering around the whole time. And if this particular earthen body and the sun's body were not there, that feminine thing would have floated somewhere out there in the, space, and have been lost.
Yeah.
So that polarizing force is also the dynamizing force, as well as is the friction force. Because just like how the continuous conception is happening, or even within us right now, especially with the kind of energies which have been raining down on the planet right now, astronomically, not astrologically, people have been feeling both ends together. Like, there's been a bunch of bliss feeling, and there's been a bunch of rage, anger, irritation, all happening literally in the same days for people. And it's very similar to again, sexual activity, because without that friction between the male and the female, the conception of new love and light would not happen. So it's happening everywhere. Like, the force of God, let's say, itself is actually happening the whole time, whether between light and water, between what is visible to us through our eyes, so us being the perceiver of where the light is falling on top of to be perceived, and in all these other ways. And this is the world I stay lost in now most of the time. And that is why I'm able to continuously experience the miracles, which, if you go to explain to somebody else, would not make sense, because the entire preceding stream of thought or emotion, you can't convey by just saying the phenomena, okay, like this appeared as magic out of nowhere, all right, in thin air, it just appeared. But even if somebody believes that, the build up to that for us in our own personal individual journey, how that meaning is so strong to us is what connects us to spirit ultimately, right?
Yeah.
And you can't share that with others. That is why dogmatic religion is starting to fall apart.
Mm.
You get me?
Yeah.
So, explosions.